Thank you, Marion. Well, I'd like to just comment today basically on the portions I read, and that is two aspects. With the children of Israel fighting the battle of Amalek, because remember, God produced the miracle of the parting of the Dead Sea. After that, and especially under Joshua, we have now entered the era where the miracle is what we produce as partners with God. We, with our abilities, have to produce a miracle, but we can only do that with one way, and that is if we have faith in advance that we will succeed. So I'm talking now about what is called, why were the Israelites always told to look up during this unbelievable battle with Amalek? Why did Moses have to have his hands held up pointing towards heaven for the entire battle, helped by her and Aaron? Quite amazing. Let's see about that. So we heard that Moses told Joshua to choose men to fight Amalek. During the battle, the Torah focuses on one detail. Moses climbs to the top of the hill, overlooking the battlefield with the staff in his hand. And as long as his hands were up, the children of Israel found the courage, the faith, the determination, and went on fighting. What is happening here? A fundamental principle of leadership is being taught here. A leader must empower his people to have that faith that they indeed can do what perhaps to the rational mind is impossible. I was trained by an incredible man in the States connected to the UCLA University, and I'll never forget the phrase he coined: he who attempts the impossible has little competition. And this, by raising our eyes up, we're reminded of that beautiful psalm that as I raise my eyes to the heaven, that is actually what Moses' hand with the staff was saying. Raise your eyes to the heaven when you're in a serious trouble, when you think that it is impossible to go on. That is the very time you've got to say, thank you, Hashem, for the abilities you have given me to achieve and overcome this adversities. So that's basically the message in this part. Lift your eyes up high and see as well, as Isaiah says, all these great things that God has created. You are part of them. You too have that power within you to achieve and overcome no matter what adversity, as many of you have been through and are still going through, perhaps with physical problems, perhaps with financial challenges, but you know that Baruch Hashem, you have the ability, being created in Hashem's image, and thanking him all the time for that ability and his creation to succeed. So this is one of the enduring themes of Tanakh, the importance of looking up, lifting your eyes on high, and to see the creation. A small people, we, the Jewish nation, that in the face of great difficulty continues to look up and win great victories and achieve our survival. Yes, there is horrific loss of innocent lives in all battles. We know that. And I don't even have to go back to the Shoah. But in memory of those who died on our behalf, Baruch Hashem, you and I are here today, not only to bring this message to ourselves, but to the good of the world, who do believe in justice, who do believe in goodness, and who will fight evil when they find it. Now, this brings me to an incredibly important question. What do we do, and how do we know when it's an evil we must fight? So it's very interesting that the Torah actually tells us that Pharaoh, who was such an enemy of ours, actually survived. He was not killed, so the Mishnah says, in the deluge, when the waters came and killed all the chariot, the horses, and the men. He actually was saved. And he actually went on to become the king of Nineveh. So, and yet, we are told very clearly about Amalek, that they must be blotted from the sight of the world. How do we distinguish between an enemy such as Pharaoh? Why did Hashem show us that he lived and went on to be king of that great city, Nineveh, which we know about from the story of Joshua? And as you know, that king believed in Hashem. Why was he not an enemy like Amalek, which has to be blotted off the face of the earth? So that brings us to the eternal questions of an Amalek or a Hitler or an ISIS. Why do they hate people? Is there any reason for it? So, today we live in what we call a liberal democracy. We don't want to destroy everyone. We want to negotiate, as we do with the Palestinians. And God tells us very, very clearly, just remember, you too were slaves in Egypt. He never told us to blot out Pharaoh or Egypt from our minds. On the contrary, he tells us to remember that we too were slaves in Egypt. He tells us to cry when his own creation, the Egyptians, drown in the sea when the waters come together. What is the difference then between the Egyptians, Pharaoh, who actually becomes the head of Nineveh and then turns away from all the corruption, sits in ashes, sackcloth and ashes himself, and says he believes in Hashem? What is the difference between that and Amalek? Or between a Pharaoh, Egyptian, the Palestinians, let's say, and ISIS today, or Hitler? And this is what is made very clear in quite a few of the droshes and things I've been studying. The great difference is that Pharaoh feared the strength. When it says in Torah, when he saw the Israelites, the Jews, becoming stronger and stronger and multiplying, he got scared of them. So his battle or hatred, if you like, of the Jew was based on fear, a rational fear, because other armies had attacked Egypt before, and he was scared the Jews might join an invading army. But if you look, and I'm repeating the thoughts of many great sages, if you look at Amalek, they did not attack this because they were scared of the strong. It says very clearly in this passage, they attacked the weak, the strugglers, the ones who were walking behind. There was no reason to attack them. They were weak. And so, with Hitler, he attacked a people who were totally in his power, who were outnumbered. They were not a threat to him. And so with ISIS today, they attack other people, Muslims, everyone, or terrorism, for example. They attack with no reason except one: to destroy, to control, to get power, and to abuse, and to steal whatever is there. I don't know if you can also see that distinction. So I'm going to read here from what I've written. The Amaleks attacked those who were lagging behind. It says it very clearly in Torah. They had no fear of God, and that's why you shall blot out the name from under the heavens. Don't forget. So whenever there is baseless hatred one of the other, as there were even amongst the Jews with the destructions of our temple, there was no reason for them to hate each other. It was baseless. And I know we are told that many times. So when there is no reason, when no one is threatening you, there can never then be negotiation and a path to peace. In other words, when evil, like Amalek, Hitler, ISIS, and others, attack, and it's an irrational attack because they're not being threatened, they have to be tragically destroyed and wiped off the face of the earth. Only in that instance. Otherwise, we are commanded with people who do have a reason to fear, who are fearful of their future, who are fearful of not having a land, who are in a weaker position than we are commanded to negotiate with them. Because you see, Pharaoh did change. At Nineveh, he understood the message of God, that he was to stop the corruption and evil in his country. And he said he understood it because in Egypt, he had witnessed the miracles and the hand of God as we have. And therefore, to conclude, there is no reason to say, why do those hate us? Why did Hitler hate us? Why do terrorists hate everyone? Why their hatred is the very hate itself. It has no reason. It is baseless. So as we are told of that as well. So when we see terrorism, look for tyranny and oppression because it always follows. Evil never dies like liberty. It demands our constant vigilance. We are commanded to remember, not for the sake of the past, but for the sake of the future. Not for revenge, but the opposite. We must be free of revenge and other forms of violence. But when we see an evil that has no reason, no one could have ever negotiated with Hitler, you and I know that. That is when we have to stand up and actually tragically fight it and cause a loss of life if it's evil. So, we are asking for freedom for all to which they claim. Freedom depends on the ability to remember and wherever necessary to confront that eternal gang of ruthless men. And there have been a few in our country and politically ruthless people. Not that they wish their demise, but we wish their accountability. Here, all over the world recently, the face of Amalek must be destroyed. Sometimes there may be no alternative but to fight evil and defeat it. This may be the only way to peace. Shabbat Shalom. Back to you, Mariam.